This week, we're going to discuss the key issues associated with employee benefits, that is, planning, design, and administration. Given the rapid escalation in the cost of employee benefits over the past 15 years, organizations are advised to evaluate the effectiveness of their benefit adoption, retention, and termination procedures. Since employee benefits cost about $4 trillion today, companies are increasingly paying attention to this reward component. Until companies can clearly identify the advantages of employee benefits, they need to find ways to control their costs or at least slow their growth. Employee benefits are that part of the total compensation package or other pay for time worked provided to employees in whole or in part by employer payments. This might include life insurance, pension plans, workers' compensation, or vacation. During both World War II and the Korean War, the federal government instituted strict wage and price controls. With strict limitations on the size of wage increases, both unions and employers sought new and improved benefits to satisfy worker demands. This was the catalyst for growth in pensions, healthcare coverage, time off, and the broad spectrum of benefits virtually unthinkable before 1950. The climate fostered by the wage and price controls created a perfect opportunity for unions to increase these rights they had acquired under the Wagner Act of 1935. Several National Labor Relations Board rulings during the 1940s freed unions to negotiate over employee benefits. With little freedom to raise wages during the war, unions fought for the introductions of new benefits and improvement of existing benefits. Largely through the efforts of unions, most notably the auto workers and steel workers, several benefits common today were given their initial point. Pattern pension plans, supplementary unemployment compensation, extended vacation plans, and guaranteed annual wage plans. Many of the benefits in existence today were provided at employer initiative. Most of this initiative can be traced back to pragmatic concerns about employee satisfaction and productivity. Rest breaks often were implemented in the belief that fatigue increased accidents and lowered productivity. Savings and profit sharing plans were implemented to improve performance and provide increased security for worker retirement years. Many employer-initiated benefits were designed to create a climate in which employees perceived that the management was generally concerned for their welfare. However, without hard data about payoffs, benefits slowly became a costly entitlement of the American workforce. Another important aspect for the growth of employee benefits is their cost effectiveness in two solutions. The first cost advantage is that most employee benefits are not taxable. Provision of a benefit rather than an equivalent increase in wages avoids payment of federal and state pension income. A second cost effectiveness component of benefits arises because many group-based benefits can be obtained at a lower rate than can be obtained by employees acting on their own. Group insurance also has relatively easy qualification standards, giving security to a set of employees who might not otherwise qualify. Lastly, the government has played an important role in the growth of employee benefits. 3 employee benefits are mandatory by either the state or the federal government: workers' compensation, which is at the state level, unemployment insurance, and Social Security, both at the federal level. In addition, most other employee benefits are affected by such laws as the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA, which affects pension administration and various sections of the Internal Revenue Code. Most recently, the highly controversial Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, or ACA, signed into law, is currently under appeal at the Supreme Court. It's actually been appealed at the Supreme Court. There are several key issues in benefit planning, design, and administration. Employers need to decide the role of benefits in their overall compensation package. They also need to decide how they would deal with undesirable turnover addressed. In addition to integrating benefits with other compensation components, The planning process also should include strategies for ensuring external competitiveness and adequacy of benefit. Competitiveness requires an understanding of what other firms in your product and labor markets offer as benefits. Firms conduct benefit surveys much as they conduct salary surveys. Ensuring that benefits are adequate is a somewhat more difficult task. Most organizations evaluating adequacy consider the financial liability of employees with and without a particular benefit. There is no magic formula for defining benefit adequacy. In part, the answer may lie in the relationship between benefit adequacy and the third plan objective, cost of effectiveness. More organizations need to consider whether employee benefits are cost justified. More frequently than ever before, companies are saying no to absorbing the cost increases of benefits. A recent study shows that 59% of employers are shifting increased benefit costs to employees through their higher deductibles and co-pays, for example. 4 major administration issues arise in setting up a benefit package. Who should be protected or benefited? How many choices should employees have among an array of benefits? How should benefits be financed? Are the benefits legally defensible? The first issue, who should be covered, ought to be an easy question. The answer is employees, of course, but every organization has a variety of employees with different employment statuses. Should these individuals be treated equally with respect to benefits coverage? A whole series of questions need to be answered. What probationary periods should be used for various types of benefits? Does the employer want to cover employees and their dependents immediately upon employment, or provide such coverage only for employees who have established more or less permanent employment with the employer? Which dependents of active employees should be covered? Should retirees be covered, and for which benefits? Should survivors of deceased employees be covered? If so, for which benefits? Are benefits for surviving spouses appropriate? The answers to these questions depend on the policy decisions regarding adequacy, competition, and cost effectiveness. The second administrative issue concerns choice in plan coverage. In the standard benefit package, employees typically have not been offered a choice among employee benefits. Rather, a package is designed with the average employee in mind, and any deviations in needs simply go unsatisfied. The other extreme is represented by cafeteria-style or flexible benefit plans. Under this concept, employees are permitted great flexibility in choosing the benefit options of greatest value to them. Another way to increase employee awareness, and probably the biggest trend today in healthcare, is to offer market-based or consumer-driven care. Although there are many variants on consumer-driven healthcare, here are the best choices. A full defined contribution is the employees responsible for finding and purchasing individual medical coverage. The employer provides funding through either direct compensation or voucher. Then you have a tiered network where the employer offers employees a choice of medical plans, which include medical systems of varying costs. Then you have a menu-driven. This is when employers provide online information to help employees customize their own benefit plan by selecting copays, deductibles, and so on. Managed competition is the employer provides a subsidized basic medical plan with buy-up options. And then we have our health savings account. That is a fund that is created by the employer, employee, or both, that is used to pay the first dollars of healthcare expenses. In Exhibit 12.5 from your text, you can see a number of factors that affect employer preference in determining desirable components of a benefit package. First, we look at our relationship to total compensation costs. A good compensation manager considers employee benefit costs as part of a total package of compensation costs. A good compensation manager thinks whether there is a better use for the money. Benefit costs are only one part of a total compensation package. Decisions about outliers have to be considered from this perspective. Benefits must be externally equitable too. A policy decision must be made about the position the organization wants to maintain and its absolute level of benefits relative to the competition. One of the best strategies for determining external equity is to conduct a benefit survey. Alternatively, many consulting organizations, professional associations, and interest groups collect benefit data that can be purchased. Too frequently, the costs and advantages of particular benefit inclusion are viewed in isolation, without reference to total package costs or forecasts of rising costs in future years. To control spiraling benefit costs, administrators should adopt a broader, cost-centered approach. As a first step, this approach would require policy decisions on the level of benefit expenditures accepted both in the short and long runs. Given the rapid growth in benefits and staggering cost implications, it seems only logical that employers would expect to derive a fair return on this investment. In fact, there is at best only certain evidence that employee benefits are cost justified. This evidence falls into three categories. First, employee benefits are widely claimed to help the retention of the workers. Benefit schedules are specifically designed to favor longer-term employees. Employee benefits also might be valued if it could be proved that they increase employee satisfaction. Benefits also would be valuable if they could show a link to increased productivity. Unfortunately, no strong data exists linking benefits level and employee productivity. Perhaps as a result, companies are cutting benefits as a cost reduction strategy. Lastly, under employer factors, we have legal requirements. Employers want a benefit package that complies with all aspects of the law. The three legally mandated benefits, as we mentioned earlier, includes workers' compensation, Social Security, and unemployment insurance. Employee preferences for various benefit options are determined by individual needs. The benefits perceived to best satisfy individual needs are the most highly desired. The perceived unfairness of difference need not be rational, but if nevertheless a factor that must be considered in determining employee needs. Occasionally, this comparison process leads to a bandwagon effect, in which new benefits offered by a competitor are adopted without careful consideration, simply because the employer wants to avoid hard feelings. This phenomenon is particularly apparent for employers with strong commitment to maintaining a totally or partially non-union workforce. While the effectiveness of this strategy in unionized efforts has not been demonstrated, many non-union firms would prefer to provide the benefit as a safety measure. One way to gauge employee preference is to look at demographic differences. The demographic approach assumes that demographic groups can be identified for which benefit preferences are fairly consistent across members of the group. Administrative time is typically spent on three functions: communicating about the benefits program, processing the claims, and cost containment. Benefits communications revolves around four issues: what is communicated, to whom, how it's communicated, and how frequently. Much of the effort to achieve benefit goals today focuses on identifying methods of communication. The how. The most frequent method for communicating employee benefits is probably still the Employee Benefit Handbook. A typical handbook contains a description of all benefits, including levels of coverage and eligibility requirements. To be most effective, the benefit manual should be accompanied by group meetings and videos. While some organizations may supplement this with periodic refreshers, a more typical approach involves one-on-one discussions between the benefit administrator and an employee seeking information on a particular benefit. In recent years, the dominance of the benefit handbook is being challenged by web self-service technology. Despite these and other innovative plans to communicate employee benefit packages, Failure to understand benefit components and their value is still one of the root causes of employee dissatisfaction with the benefit package. It is believed that an effective communications package must have two elements. An organization must spell out its benefits objectives and ensure that any communications achieve these objectives. An effective communication package should match the message with the appropriate medium. Technological advances have made tremendous improvements in employee benefit communication. In the last 15 years, the internet has become a major communication tool for benefits. Claims processing arises when an employee asserts that a specific event, maybe a disability, hospitalization, or even unemployment, has occurred and demands that the employer fulfill a promise of payment. As such, a claims processor must first determine whether the act has, in fact, occurred. In the event If the event did not, the second step involves determining if the employee is eligible for the benefit. If the benefit is not denied at this stage, the claims processor calculates the payment level. It is particularly important that at this stage to ensure coordination of benefits. If multiple insurance companies are liable for payment, a good claims processor can save 10 to 15% of a claim's cost by ensuring that the liability is jointly paid. And lastly is cost containment. Increasingly, employers are auditing their benefit options for cost containment opportunities. The most prevalent practices include probationary periods, including new employees from benefit coverage until some term of employment, typically 3 months, has been completed. Benefit limitations is not uncommon to limit disability income payments to some maximum percentage of income, and to limit medical or dental coverage for specific procedures to a certain fixed amount. Co-pays require that employees pay a fixed or percentage amount of coverage. Administrative cost containment is controlling costs through policies such as seeking competitive bids for program delivery. Probably the biggest cost containment strategy is the movement to outsourcing. By hiring vendors to administer their benefits program, many companies claim greater centralization, consistency, and control of costs and benefits.